We can start the recording. Great. So again, welcome officially. My name is Mim Senft, co-founder of Motivity Care. We welcome you to the Motivity Care webinar series, all things care and aging well and independently. And we are here to give you the information to help you make good choices so you can live that life that you want to lead. Today's topic is specifically about the financial impact of caregiving on women, and it does impact us differently. We are delighted and honored to have Barbara Provost with us today, the founder of Purse Strings. So welcome, Barbara.
Thank you. So glad to be here again, Mim.
Yeah, and would love to have you say just a little bit about Purse Strings and what the organization does and your mission.
Sure. So at Purse Strings, we give women access to free financial information, content, skills through our life and money guides, our blogs, things like that. Our mission is to provide women free online tools and resources to help them make smart financial decisions for themselves, for their families, for their businesses. And then when they have to take action and they need an attorney or a financial planner, they need a realtor, they need anyone that helps them on their financial journey, they can access our curated directory of vetted financial professionals who focus on serving a female market. They understand what women want and need from their financial professionals, and so they are uniquely equipped to help serve women.
Well, we love that. And Motivity Care, as you know, Barbara, we are here about simplifying aging and making caregiving more secure. And with an aging workforce and an aging population, but we all need to be thinking about this, but it is definitely impacts us as women a little bit differently. And so we really wanted to focus on that today and have your expert voice here. So I'm just going to jump in, and ask the
Good.
first question. Why is it important to be discussing the financial impact of caregiving on women?
Sure. So today, 10,000 people will turn 65, and that will happen every single day for the next 7 years. So what does that tell you? That whole swell of that baby boomer generation is aging. And as we age, we need more health and oversight, more care. And caretaking will fall, and the data confirms it, on either the oldest the oldest daughter in the family or the daughter in the family. And it just, as it is, they're the ones who step in and start with some caregiving. And that often means that I think the average was around 47 years old is the average age of a caretaker, but it can really be anyone in there. I've heard stories of even my daughter who was caring for her father when she was in her early 20s, to my husband who's now caring for his mom who's in her 90s. So, it really spans. And because of that, what happens is women are having to leave the workforce sometimes, or at least leave their work early. What happens when that happens? They have to take away any benefits, right? If you leave your job or even go part-time, your benefits decrease, your contributions to Social Security, your Social Security credits. So those are your impact to your salary goes down. But not only that, there's so many covert things that happen that we're not even realizing, like just the running of errands, the gas, picking up, things for dad, running this errand, taking them to the doctor. $5,500 a year just out of pocket expenses that are just happening hither and yon because they're trying to run around and take care, and they're probably also taking care of their own family. So talk about the sandwich generation. So this is what's happening for women, and as we both have discussed, Mim, this is a tsunami coming our way.
It is. And we like to say it's not the sandwich generation, it's the vice generation. That you are getting squeezed from each side. So I really appreciate that you were sharing, because again, we don't think about that if we're not working, if we have to take a caregiving break, right, from our careers, this idea, right, again, to your point, we're not contributing to Social Security. We can't contribute to our 401k. We have other out-of-pocket expenses now that we may not have thought about. So one little stat, there was a financial study about this particular thing. So a real number around this, that on average, women that take these caregiving breaks from their careers are going to leave $300,000 to $800,000 on the table over the course of their career. That's a huge chunk of change. And it's something that we need to be aware of. And so let's just talk about, like, if we don't have that money, what is the impact to our financial future?
Huge, huge. I mean, I think we were talking the other day where people start dipping into their 401ks, who's going to pay for it? That's where we at Purse Strings really work with financial professionals to have these questions and ask these questions and have these conversations with women who are in a caregiving role, because who's going to pay for it? And what are the benefits out there that a caregiver can leverage? So financially, there's a huge impact, but studies also reveal there's a stressful mental impact. There's a physical impact because they're running around trying to take care of a whole, another set of problems in their day. And these women, oftentimes, they're finding they don't go to their own doctor's appointments because they're tired of going to doctor's appointments. So they put their own health on hold, which is very detrimental because it's a very stressful time for them and they're not doing any self care. And I think the stat is like 20% of caregivers will die before the person they're caring for. So
That's
it's very,
scary.
very stressful.
Yeah, and these are hard things to talk about, right? But this is why being educated, having a plan in place, we can avoid this. This is not, inevitable. And this is why I know you're passionate about it. We at Motivity Care are so passionate about this. That right, the tip of the iceberg is, which is scary enough about the financial impact, but even for employer groups to understand this, that your working caregivers will statistically, exactly because of what you said, have higher mental health and physical health claims. They are more likely to have issues with HR because they won't identify as a caregiver.
Right.
And right, there's that bias that, unfortunately is still very much out there, even though most of us, I mean, I think this is what we always like to talk about. Pretty much all of us are either going to have to make caregiving decisions for someone we love, a spouse, a parent, a grandparent, maybe you're supporting a friend, whatever that is, or someone's making them for us.
Right.
So it doesn't mean that that is end of life. And I say that pretty bluntly, because really what the reality is that we're always going to have bumps in the road, right? We're always
Yeah.
going to hear things that are going to come up. It's the plan that you have
Yes.
around this. So there is the financial piece of this, but then there are all the other pieces of the puzzle. There are, the medical considerations and the
Yeah.
legal considerations and your personal preferences, and simple as taking care of a pet if you're in the hospital, or who's keeping eyes on the
Exactly.
house, or like all of these things. And that's why having arms around you for these conversations, and honestly, like we all know, doing that little bit of work to be preventive can really get you ahead of a true crisis. And I know you're deeply, deeply passionate about this. So let's dig into a little bit about what it really means to have a caregiving plan, like
Yeah.
a financial care plan, so that we can age independently, age the way we want to age, think, how is that different from saving for retirement?
Well, financial care plan is a lot more than the money. Of course, it's the money, right? You have to understand if you all of a sudden you get the call, mom fell, right? And all of a sudden you're the person that needs to step in and step up. You need to know who's her doctor, how are her medical bills being paid? Now I have to learn Medicare, and I've never had to learn that before because I'm not on Medicare yet, let's say, right? Um, where are her documentations, her wills, her powers of attorney? Do I have a say? Can they talk to me, right? So that immediacy is so important because all of a sudden you have to become an expert in so many areas that 10 minutes ago you weren't even thinking about, right? Where are the medications, all of that. So planning for it is, how are we financially going to care for this? And it's really about working with a great financial professional to say, are you a caregiver? And sometimes, and we've discussed this, Mim, sometimes women go, no, I'm not a caretaker. I just, bring meals to my parents a few times a week and I take them to their doctor's appointment. That's caregiving.
Right.
That's the very start of caregiving.
Right. And that's why we at Motivity Care work very closely with financial advisors. So we believe it is an ecosystem. There are good and not good financial advisors, like anything else. And that's why
Right.
working through purse strings, having a way to vet somebody who really understands that. And, for us, when we looked at this, we said there is the financial piece of this, but then there are all these other pieces of the puzzle, right? So can you truly save time and money? Are you getting to a resource that is truly vetted, truly vetted?
Mhm.
And this is where people get themselves into trouble. Is it the right type of lawyer for that particular situation? Because it's like saying, well, I have a doctor. Okay. Are they a heart surgeon? Are they a foot specialist? Like what kind? So this is why this ecosystem of care is so important. And we tend to, as women, right? We're super women. If we're not doing it,
Yes.
we're supposed to do it all. We're supposed to know it all. But to your point, Barbara, nobody is an expert in caregiving unless you've done it for years and years and years. And you want to
Right.
go and have that kind of peace of mind to know that the advice that you're getting is specific to you, your needs, your requests, your budget, your insurance, all of those pieces of the puzzle. And frankly, are you going to spend 20, 40 hours a week trying to Google and figure out all this stuff and still make the mistakes? Or do you do what we normally do? I'm going to go look for the best plumber, in this, and I'm going to get, who you're going to talk to about that. And that's why, again, we work super collaboratively and
Yeah.
talk about this ecosystem around us. But I think, one of the things that you brought up, we talk a lot about gender equity, right, in caregiving. And what's very interesting is this caregiving issue for working women is one of the biggest barriers to closing the gender equity gap. And yet, how much do we really talk about this? Right? We talk about mentoring and we talk about better education. All of that's great. But this is why I know you and I and our networks are so passionate about getting out there and saying we have to solve this caregiving issue for women because it isn't just about those they care for, as you so beautifully said. It's about our own health and well-being,
Mhm.
our
Yeah.
ability to show up at work, our ability to stay financially viable ourselves, not just protect our parents or our loved ones' estates. It's also about our own journey. And so
Yeah.
I just think it's I know we're both super passionate about it
Yeah.
because
Well,
we've lived it.
yeah. And from an HR perspective, I mean, like you said, we all want to be super women, but women who are dealing with this, you may not know what they're caring for at home. And I have my darling sister-in-law who is taking care of both of her parents, and she has a special needs child at home, and she's trying to work full time. So, she is lucky enough to work for an organization that understands what she's doing, and she was able to share with them what her constraints are. And she's also a fantastic employee. So, how are HR departments stepping forward and having just dialogues with the women in their organizations? Are you in a caregiving role? This is what we understand you could be going through. Let us share with you some of the benefits that we have that can help you, FMLA, or help you understand some other, health and welfare benefits that you might need to know for the person you're caring for. How can we help support you? How can we help adjust or be flexible with your schedule, perhaps, to make sure that you have what you need in order to, be in this caregiving role and be a good, employee for us and contribute as well and feel good about that too.
Right. And that's really, to our point, that's why, we created Motivity Care to be a
Mhm.
benefit, a real benefit, not a lunch and learn, literally a way for employers to be able to help caregiving employees save time, save money, and reduce those risks so that they can stay engaged at work. I mean, there's a real business case around this. And one of the things that we bring up a lot, AARP tells us that when you get thrown into caregiving, and we call those like the tipping point calls, right? We're not thinking about it. And all of a sudden, okay, somebody has a cancer diagnosis or early Alzheimer's, or there's been an accident. And
Mhm.
now you're thrown into this. And so the reality is that on average, you're going to spend 24 hours every week on caregiving
Mhm.
management. That is not feeding them. That is not doing, this is caregiving management. And so think about what that is really going to do to your life, your career, and
Your
why
marriage.
having that plan, why helping to reduce those hours is a gift. It's a gift to you, and it is a gift to those that you love. But I'd say practically speaking, it is a discussion that every employer should be having right now.
Yes.
20 to 30% of your workforce right now is caring for an adult or an aging adult. It is
Mhm.
having an impact on your bottom line. And so this
Mhm.
kind of education and helping, and as you said, Barbara, it is FMLA. It is having the real benefit that can go out and reduce this time. It is about understanding how and when to use the dependent care benefit for an aging loved one that lives in your home. It is really important to understand if you have an EAP where that fits into to help with the mental health
Mhm.
needs of it,
Yeah.
but it has to be integrated. You've got to have a plan around it, or your employees, like most things, it goes all piecemeal, right? They don't know when, they're just mostly focused on their medical thing. But it is a tsunami that's coming.
Yeah, it's a
And
tsunami. And especially as women are leaving the workforce, if you really want to keep your good, talented people, you need a care plan for the employee who's caring for somebody, right? You need to make sure at every point in turn you have a plan in place for those women who feel vulnerable. It's a very vulnerable place to be because the minute they say, I am also caring for my mom who suddenly got diagnosed with cancer, um, you know, they're afraid to say it because it makes it real. They know it's going to impact their workload. They don't want to get dinged at work. So if you can come forward with a really positive care plan, we hear you, we see you. Let's talk about how we can help support you through this
right.
and, bring in their leadership or whomever is part of this strategic plan around how to care for these caregiving. And there's men and women. I mean, typically it does fall on the women, but men are involved as well. Everybody has a role to play.
Thank you. And they're very good. We just want to be clear about that.
Yeah,
We have clients really that are male caregivers. The interesting thing is that in a workforce, it is even less likely that a male caregiver making decisions for mom or dad or whatever will identify. And a lot
right,
of that, unfortunately, is because, like it or not, caregiving is still viewed as women's work.
right.
Right? Why isn't the wife doing it? Why isn't the sister doing it? And so, to your point, it is so important to create an open dialogue about
Mhm,
this issue. We are big believers in sharing stories,
mhm,
specifically executives that have gone through this. That kind of vulnerability and openness can open up people getting access to. But I don't want to forget that there are those that become caregivers that may not be in the workforce, right? Maybe you
mhm.
just retired and yay, you've saved up and you have these great plans and now you
Yeah,
get thrown into caregiving. Um,
mhm.
and it's frustrating. And so I think that's the big question with plans in place, having good conversations. And we hear this all the time, like, well, my parents don't want to talk to me about it. They don't
Yeah,
want to burden me with it. And so one of our the ways that we kind of suggest that they talk to them is like, look, we want to make sure that if we have to make decisions for you, that these are your decisions, yours. This isn't
yeah,
about you burdening us. This is, in fact, this makes it easier for us. And then we can make sure that you have control over those decisions. And it starts to
right.
change the dialogue around us.
Yeah,
I think it's important to bring up too that we know, at least the stats that I've seen, that 20% of female executives are single and have no kids. So what happens to them?
right.
What happens if, again, maybe they have to get shoulder surgery or something, right? Where's the support system around them? So this care issue is not just about the aging person or you planning for aging. It's also being prepared should you need a care situation. I mean,
Right.
I'm sure many of us know women that have gone through breast cancer and, are survivors. They get back to their great life. And I mean, thank God for all the great research and, I mean, so much has changed.
Yeah,
But like it or not, it's still a big care journey. And so we need to talk about it in that context too, that when you
yeah,
have those health issues, even before, you get into your, your golden years or however
yeah,
you want to term that, um, that you have the peace of mind of a protective network around you so you can focus on getting better and then get back to that life that you want to lead.
absolutely. Yeah, like you said, it's an ecosystem and it's complicated. It's complicated when you are suddenly get a call that all of a sudden somebody you love so much needs care for whatever reason, and now you're in charge. And it's complicated at a time where you're also stressed out about what to do next. Who do I call? What do I say? What's this new verbiage I need to learn about what this medication is or what this circumstance is? uh, where is everything that I need all of a sudden? Because I've gotten that call and I come from a big family with a lot of support. And even all of us together trying to negotiate it, I can't imagine if I were on my own and didn't have some resources.
Right. And I'm going to share this because I know if you've heard me talk before, you've heard me share these stories, but I think, you know, this is personal for most of us that are in this industry. So I've taken care of my dad with pancreatic cancer through end of life. My husband was unfortunately in a very bad hit and run accident. It turned my life upside down. And so, and those are just two examples. My mom, she's doing great, yay. But 87 years strong, yay, mom. And she's out there driving and teaching and living her best life. But the reality is something can happen. And so, to your point, what is in place? Who is responsible? How quickly can we get to that information? And as you know, at Motivity Care, this is really what we thought about. So having the ability to securely, HIPAA compliant, be able to share the right information, and whether that is medical information, specific medical information, personal wants and needs. Here's an example. Everybody thinks about, well, dietary restrictions, right? So we need to know that it has to be a low salt diet. But what does somebody eat when they don't feel well? Like we each
Mhm.
have that. That's unique to each of us, right? And it sounds like such a simple thing, but in a medical situation, or if an aide is coming in, are there comfort items that that person really likes? What career, what do they like to talk about? Then there are
Yeah.
the practical things like mom forgot her Hulu login again, and I'm getting the call 3 times a day because it happens, right? We talk about this all the time, but all the way up to the very serious things like, oh my gosh, this was completely unexpected. Now they're in the hospital recovering for 4 months. Bills have to get paid. I don't have access to the money. Now it's coming out of my own pocket. What is the
Mhm.
plan so that you as the caregiver are not taking that financial hit? And so there are legal, and this is why you want to talk to a professional, right?
Mhm.
Should I be on the bank account? Do I know if mom has a financial advisor? Do I have the relationship? How is that set up? Is the POA a financial POA? Is it valid? Has it already been approved? It gets complicated, but this is why you want guidance so that you have
Right.
somebody around you to say, let's simplify it. Let's make it easier. Let's do this step by
Right.
step. Let's give you that peace of mind and,
Yeah.
frankly, be better protected.
Absolutely, no doubt about it. I mean, it's a no-brainer. We have to have this in place, or else people will just be spinning out of control. There's just too much to think about. And again, as I go back to my initial statement, population's aging, and we need to be prepared for it.
Well, and I always kind of joke about this, but pretty much everybody's aging.
Yeah,
From the day we're born. Um,
yeah,
but I'm a little sarcastic about that. But what I'm saying, I think what we really, really want to get across here is the sooner you have a plan in place, and again, it's like anything. Like if you have a financial advisor or or you're working, you understand what it is. Like you're going to put in a plan. It doesn't mean the plan doesn't change, right? But it's
right.
like what's going on now. Your priorities might change, circumstances might change. I'll give you a specific example. Was talking to a financial advisor that we work very closely with, and family was on track. And then the husband got an early Alzheimer's diagnosis.
Mhm,
All that planning about how much money they were going to save based on his income, everything changed. The wife,
mhm,
knowing the diagnosis, now wants to spend more time with her husband for what time they
mhm.
have. And so this is why, right? How do you think that through? How do you look at all the pieces of the puzzle? Or your loved one, again, unexpected surgery, accident. Now you are trying to bring them back home. Well, it's not just about a handicapped bathroom.
Right.
It's right. There's financial considerations. There
Yeah.
are even capital expenses. Does it make sense to do that? Is that the right choice? Or do we look at different retirement community options, step up, memory care, all that stuff? And how do we vet all of that? That's why you need to have people that can get you to credible, vetted resources. Um,
Yes.
we all hear the horror stories, and we're actually going to do a webinar about this later this year. Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars because the right plan was not put in place. The
Oh,
right
yeah.
legal documents are not in place. And
Mhm.
don't you want to go and enjoy your retirement? Don't you want to get over those things and live the best life? Don't you want that money protected? And for
Right.
women, we live statistically longer.
Yes.
Let's enjoy that.
Right. And that's why, at Purse Strings, really working with a good financial planner should have you should have protection in place for these types of scenarios that could come up. And the fact that women do live on average 5 to 7 years longer, she's going to age alone. So she really needs to know who's going to take care of her as she ages alone. And it's more expensive, right? There's more health and oversight that's going to be needed for her. And that's the other reason why we want women to really come to the table, learn what they need to know about the money that's in their household, the cash flow, their net worth, what are the investments, and the Social Security contributions, everything it's all a compilation that she needs to be aware of.
The
Not
clip for Medicare coverage
every,
that people don't understand. If you've got a
yes,
certain level of, like some of this stuff, people on the board going, what are you talking about? Exactly. That's why you want to talk to somebody that that can really be that coach, that quarterback for you. Um,
absolutely.
so if you were going to pick like say somebody really doesn't have anything in place, right? Or they're not even sure what they have in place. If you were going to just off the top of your head, here are the 3 or 5 things you should have in place right now or get in place right now. What would you tell someone, a woman who's going, okay, I get it. What should I be putting in place?
A list of all your financials, whatever money you have in a bank, in an investment account, and your any loans that you have. You want to know where all that money is. So what's the account number? Where does it reside? What's the balance? Be very clear about all your financials, both money that you have invested anywhere, as well as any loans you have, any debts you have, mortgages, car loans, student loans, whatever it might be. You need to know what your financial picture is. You need to have that all written down. That's number one. Your cash flow. So how much money is coming in and going out of your household every month. We have tools for this, a worksheet called Where's My Money Going? You can get it free online. And then also your power of attorneys for financial, your power of attorneys for healthcare, and a will. I think right out of the gate, those are kind of the foundational elements I would say that you need to have. And then you will need to really, I would say, go to purse strings, look at some of our financial professionals, and really engage and have a conversation with one that resonates with you so that you get a good picture of your comprehensive financials today and where you want to go going forward.
Yeah, I think that's excellent advice. Just so you know, we did, and it is free. You can go out on our YouTube channel. We did an earlier webinar that's specifically about the difference between wills and trusts. So if you
Mhm.
want just a little bit more education, I encourage you to go to Motivity Care's YouTube channel and review that. What supersedes a will? So what language, right? There are good wills and bad wills. They're not all wills are the same. So I think that's
Mhm.
excellent advice. And I think also the other thing about POA's power of attorney, again, they are not all the same. And
Right.
people can get around them. That's why getting the right information is so important. We are almost at time. I know, Barbara, you and I could probably talk about this for another 2 hours easily, because we care so much and
Yeah.
we want to see all of us live our best lives. We want women um, to be those positive change makers in the workplace, to be the leaders at all levels, to be the leaders in their own life, live that life, that you deserve, and
Right.
also be able to care for those that you love in yourself. And that's why this kind of planning is just so important. It's the gift that you give yourself and those that you love.
Yes.
So we ask you to think about writing some of these things down for yourself. Get started. Get a plan together, call Motivity Care, call Purse Strings, let us help you.
Mhm.
Make sure that you are protected and have that best life. Um, Cannot thank you enough, Barbara, for giving such wonderful advice, for sharing your expertise. And we are excited. So we have a wonderful webinar next month. It is focused on the Medicaid application, right? We think of Medicaid as something that's for lower income people, but it is actually a vehicle that can be used when it's used the right way to protect around caregiving costs. And so we're going to give you some expert information about that. And then in October, we're really excited to have Dr. Rita Stafford with us, who's going to talk about tech security for our aging adults. And I'm truly a global expert in that. So join us again, spread the word. We thank you so much for joining us at Motivity Care. We are all about simplifying aging and making caregiving more secure. We all deserve that. So have a great rest of your day. Thank you. And we look forward to having you with us on our next webinar next month in September.